Okay, so here we go with another example of what I might call worshiptainment. I've talked about this somewhat relentlessly over the last couple of months and even a couple of years. My concern that churches are moving towards entertainment rather than worship, which essentially violates the regulative principle of worship, wherein we do what God commands us to do in Scripture, and we do not try to invent things that would please Him. And certainly, we do not invent things in worship that would please man. So this is from the old Twitter machine here. Here's a person called Edgewater Exile. Have no idea who that is. He does not come into this story, as C.S. Lewis said, but he does tweet, I don't think I've fully internalized how frankly bizarre the world of suburban megachurches are. And I'm saying that as somebody who attended one as a kid. And so what we're looking at here is a very large megachurch. Looks like a massive theater here. We see Electro Jesus here in the back, writ large. And this is from Tony Dossett, originally on TikTok, and then it's been retweeted on Twitter here. What we're looking at is a bunch of flying drummer boys that are hovering through the amphitheater, somehow suspended by strings or wires or cords, something like this. It looks to be a rehearsal for some massive theatrical performance that's going to happen this Advent season. And I have no doubt that the people that attend this show are going to be extraordinarily pleased by what they're seeing. This looks like a high production value, almost like a circus atmosphere here. I do think there are a couple of problems, though, with this, and the least of which, of course, is the regulative principle of worship. But, you have to feel bad for the pastor who's got to come out and preach. Presumably, there is a sermon. I don't even know that that's for sure. But what is the pastor possibly going to say that is going to follow something as dynamic as this? And after all, isn't it the word preached that is supposed to be the dynamic living center of the Christian congregation? What we essentially have is we have the word preached and we have the sacraments, the Lord's Supper and baptism. Um, I don't know what could possibly be said after a performance like this with great beard, though. Got to give him that. That's an amazing beard. So what could possibly be said by the preacher that is going to sustain the attention of the audience or the congregation for even a few moments after having seen something like this? Second question is, what in the world are you going to do next year? If this is what you do this year, then how are you going to beat that next year? Because in sort of a worshiptainment model, what you have to do is you have to continually keep ramping up the heights and the grandeur and the majesty and the glamour of the event so that there's something attractional to even come to next year. Because if you say we don't have anything new, then what are you going to use to attract people? And that's exactly the problem with worshiptainment, is whatever you use to get them there, you have to use to keep them there, as somebody one time said. And not only that, but you have to keep getting better every time. And so what you end up doing is kind of like that old Happy Days episode where somebody jumps the shark. You remember that ridiculous episode where Fonzie is on the skis? I think he's got his leather jacket on and everything, and he jumps over a shark. Well, in the entertainment industry, they call that jumping the shark, because what else can you possibly do to better and to top that? You've already gone so far into the realm of the ridiculous that there seems to be nothing left to do. So I say to you, pastors, you don't need flying drummer boys. You don't need angels on fire. You don't need live camels in your Christmas Eve service if you have one. What you do need to do, though, is open that book, that beautiful old book, and preach the word of Christ to a generation that desperately, desperately needs to hear it. Thank you so much for checking in. Love you lots. We'll talk to you later.